The Afghan refugee accused of shooting 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C., will be charged with murder, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia Jeanine Pirro said. Rahmanullah Lakanwal, 29, allegedly shot the 2 guardsmen on Wednesday in an ambush-style attack. U.S. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, 20, died Thursday, while U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf remains in critical condition. She volunteered, and she ended up being shot, ambush-style, on the cold streets of Washington, D.C., by an individual who will now be charged with murder in the first degree. She volunteered, and she ended up being shot, ambush-style, on the cold streets of Washington, D.C., by an individual who will now be charged with murder in the first degree, Pirro told the media. Pirro said what happened was unmistakable.
I'll begin my remarks and my remarks the same way, with prayer for our fallen soldiers, prayer for our law enforcement community, prayer for our National Guardsmen and women, prayer for our brave prosecutors at the Department of Justice and the offices of the D.C. United States Attorney. We must come together as a nation, especially on this Thanksgiving Day, and remember the sacrifices that so many are making around the world and around this country to secure our freedoms under President Trump's brilliant leadership and administration. I'll provide an update on the case as follows. It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI is leading out on these federal assault on a federal law enforcement officer investigation on many fronts. We immediately, with our law enforcement partners in the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, secured the scene, seized the weapon, sent in our evidence response team immediately to collect evidence, and started doing block-by-block canvasses. We are looking for and interviewing witnesses. The firearm and other materials have been sent to our Quantico laboratory already yesterday for immediate analysis. That work is ongoing. Partnering with the D.C. United States Attorney's Office, we have also executed multiple search warrants around the country to include the subject's last known residence, which is in the state of Washington. The search warrant was executed on that house last night or early this morning, and it is an ongoing process. All the individuals found in the house have been interviewed, and some interviews remain ongoing. We will not stop until we interview anyone and everyone associated with the subject, the house, and every piece of his life. There's also subject interviews, relations conducted in San Diego, pursuant to our ongoing investigation. So, as the judge noted, this is a coast-to-coast investigation being led right here in Washington, D.C., and this subject definitely did pick the wrong country. And we will rise together as a nation to show the world what we do here. And we are thankful that we have the Attorney General's brave leadership and President Trump's brave leadership and priorities to safeguard our communities. I also spoke to Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, last night, and Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States of America. That is what a broad-based international terrorism investigation looks like. We will provide continuous details to the American public while at the same time not jeopardizing the ongoing prosecution to ultimately hold this perpetrator accountable in our courts of law. We will provide as much transparency as possible, but as you can see, the breadth and scope of this investigation will continue. We will continue to hit the streets and hit every town and every house and talk to every witness. The men and women of the FBI and the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, to include the Department of Homeland Security, DEA, and ATF, are working tirelessly on this Thanksgiving Day. And I know just by talking to the leaders behind me that instead of going on and being with their families, everyone rogered up and showed up to work today. And none of them want to go home. That's the resolve that we have together as a team to bring to you justice for this heinous act of terrorism here in our nation's capital. And as the judge said, we will ensure that our law enforcement partners are out there in full force to make sure the world can enjoy our nation's capital. We will not let this heinous act of violence prevent people from visiting our beautiful nation's capital. And we will also continue to highlight any evidence that we can publicly. And as the judge said, this individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone, because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet anyway, in any way, shape, or form, this individual and countless others, and this administration has taken the rightful step to stop any further allowance of people with this similar background into the country, and we're thankful for that. And as I said, this investigation remains ongoing.
A question for Director Patel. Was the suspect granted asylum, and if so, when did that happen, under which administration, and did authorities miss any signs, either in the asylum process or even back when he reportedly worked for the CIA? If you could talk about that.
Well, you miss all the signs when you do absolutely zero vetting. And that's exactly what happened in this case. When you, in the prior administration, made the decision to allow thousands of people into this country without doing a single piece of background checking or vetting, that's how you miss every single sign. And Secretary Kristi Noem has put out details specifically related to your other questions, so I'll let that speak for themselves.
If or when he was granted asylum, if you could just clarify that timeline. And
yes, I believe Kristi Noem put that out, and that's a DHS matter, and I'll refer it to them.
Could you elaborate on the investigative steps that were taken in
Sure.
San Diego? You mentioned Bellingham, Washington,
Sure.
where you live, but could you explain the San Diego connection?
So what happened was, thanks to the quick investigation by the interagency and the FBI, we were able to track down his last known residence, working with our United States Attorney's offices here and at the Department of Justice and prosecutors across the country. We were able to serve search warrants literally overnight and through the night.
All night.
And we were able to hit the house in Washington State. During that process, we seized numerous electronic devices to include cell phones, laptops, iPads, and other material that is being analyzed as we speak. Pursuant to that investigation and any known associates of the subject and of that house is how we ended up in San Diego, where interviews were conducted and are going to be continued to be conducted. And we will go anywhere in the country or the world where the evidence leads us.
Are there accomplices, relationships in San Diego you can talk about?
All of that is an ongoing investigation.
Can anyone give an update as far as Sarah and Andrew, who were injured? You said critical condition. Can you give anything beyond that? Are they expected to make it? Is it touch and go? Can you tell us a little more about how they're doing?
And the full spelling of their names, please.
It is Sarah Beckstrom, Beckstrom, and Andrew Wolfe with an E, Wolfe. Okay, and Sarah Beckstrom.
How do you spell Sarah?
Oh, S with an H. Okay. Now, with respect to their medical condition, as I said, they are receiving the finest medical care. Their families are with them now. They are critical. I think you understand the meaning of that. It's not clear, how this is going to end up. But let me be perfectly clear about how it will end up in this office. If one of them is to pass, and God forbid that happens, this is a murder one, period, end of the story. We are praying on a day like today when families come together in America and they hold hands around the Thanksgiving table. I beg you, I beseech you to pray for these two young people, that they survive.